LET Review, New Curriculum, Professional Education Part 4, Actual LET Questions, 150 Items Drill. This is JM Pedagogical Vlog Review. Disclaimer: no copyright infringement intended, for educational purposes only. Direction: you may get a piece of paper and a pen to answer. The correct answer will be revealed right after. Make sure to honestly answer all the questions for you to be able to reflect your score. Good luck, LPT cutie. Are you ready? Okay, let's begin. If you use Pygmalion effect to explain why children coming from depressed areas cannot read, to which do you attribute the poor reading performance of this particular group of children? A. Ineffective teaching methods. B. Lack of motivation. C. Lack of reading materials. D. Poor expectation from depressed areas. D. Poor expectation from depressed areas. With a death threat over his head, teacher Liza is directed to pass an undeserving student. If she is a hedonist, which of the following will she do? A. Pass the student. That will be of use to her, the student and his parents. B. Don't pass him. Live her principle of justice. She will get reward, if not in this life, in the next. C. Don't pass him. She surely will not like someone to give you a death threat in order to pass. D. Pass the student. Why suffer the threat? D. Pass the student. Why suffer the threat? Which is considered a political impact of globalization? A. The threat to the autonomy of national educational systems by globalization. B. Changing the role of education in terms of preparing students for the world of work. C. Branding, globalization and learning to be consumers. D. Reforms in education as lifelong education. A. The threat to the autonomy of national educational systems by globalization. Mrs. Lopez prefers to use low-profile classroom control like eye contact and hand gesture to high-profile, like, stop walking around, settle down and get to work. Which of the following justifies Mrs. Lopez's action? A. Low-profile form of control is simple and time-saving. B. Low-profile form of control has low probability of its distracting other members of the class. C. Low-profile form of control directs attention of the class to target pupils. D. Low-profile form of control minimizes teachers' visibility. B. Low-profile form of control has low probability of its distracting other members of the class. Teacher Carla is a very dedicated teacher in the nursery. Her foremost concern is for the students to learn how to adapt themselves in the environment. This shows that teacher Carla upholds this kind of philosophy. A. Progressivism. B. Naturalism. C. Rationalism. D. Pragmatism. B. Naturalism. Teachers may tend to regard effective development as secondary or supplementary to a significant task. Which of the following indicates such a view? A. Getting samples of activities that are exciting to learners. B. Understanding how she reacts to varying pupils' behavior. C. Assisting students to overcome negative behaviors. D. Understanding the causes of pupils' behavior. C. Assisting students to overcome negative behaviors. If your licensure examination test LET items sample adequately the competencies listed in the syllabi, it can be said that the LET possesses blank validity. A. Concurrent. B. Predictive. C. Content. D. Construct. C. Content. After the holidays, there was much chatter and sharing of stories in class. You were confronted with behavioral management. You have a well-planned lesson which you cannot start. What is the best strategy for the class to settle down so you can start the lesson? A. Give a 10-item test to keep them quiet. B. Give the class 10 minutes to share how they spent the holidays. C. Give the students 10 minutes to write a paragraph on their New Year's resolution. D. Ask the students what their New Year's resolutions are. B. Give the class 10 minutes to share how they spent the holidays. Which philosophy approves a teacher who lectures most of the time, and requires his students to memorize the rules of grammar? A. Realism. B. Existentialism. C. Pragmatism. D. Idealism. D. Idealism. What kind of tension is referred to when people prefer to have quick answers and ready solutions to many problems, even if it calls for a patient, concerted, negotiated strategy of reform? A. Tension between individual and universal. B. Tension between spiritual and material. C. Tension between modernity and tradition. D. Tension between long-term and short-term considerations. D. Tension between long-term and short-term considerations. The second basic principle of development states that the rate of the development is unique to each individual. Educators aptly termed this as the principle of A. Individual differences. B. Dynamic change. C. Uniqueness. D. Variation. A. Individual differences. In the class of Mrs. Sheena, some children are usually more active than others, as in other class. Extremely high levels of activity or hyperactivity are sometimes considered problematic. How may she help a child who is hyperactive? A. Allow him to spend longer time at the playground until he gets tired. B. Give him challenging activities that are appropriate to his ability level and interests. C. Make him the leader of the class. D. Transfer him to another class. B. Give him challenging activities that are appropriate to his ability level and interests. The establishment of the School of the Future (SOF) introduces improvement and reform in education to respond to both human and social needs. What philosophy is related to it? A. Idealism. B. Reconstructionism. C. Perennialism. D. Existentialism. B. Reconstructionism. In which competency do my students find the greatest difficulty? In the item with a difficulty index of A. 0.1, B. 0.5, C. 0.9, D. 1.0. A. 0.1. Teacher A's lesson is about the parts of the gumamela. He asked his pupils per group to bring a real flower to study the different parts. After the group labeling each part, the teacher gave a test. What would be the best type of test he can give? A. Matching type. B. Journal. C. Essay type. D. Diary. A. Matching type. Teacher Sanchez wants to determine immediately the learning difficulties of her students. Which of the following do you expect her to undertake? A. Administer an achievement test. B. Interview her students directly. C. Administer a diagnostic test. D. Require her students to prepare a portfolio. C. Administer a diagnostic test. Teacher Bianca is a teacher of English as a second language. She uses vocabulary cards, fill-in-the-blank sentences, dictation and writing exercises in teaching a lesson about grocery shopping. Based on this information, which of the following is a valid conclusion? A. The teacher is emphasizing listening and speaking skills. B. The teacher is reinforcing learning by giving the same information in a variety of methods. C. The teacher wants to do less talk. D. The teacher is applying Bloom's hierarchy of cognitive learning. B. The teacher is reinforcing learning by giving the same information in a variety of methods. This educational philosophy encourages accumulation of knowledge and thinking and must apply criteria for moral evaluation. Suggested methods are questioning and discussion, lecture and the project, whether methods done singly or in group. A. Essentialism. B. Existentialism. C. Behaviorism. D. Idealism. D. Idealism. The Athenian ideal of education was the formation of a cultural soul in graceful and symmetrical body. This is achieved by A. Adopting the philosophy, know thyself. B. Well-balanced development of mind, body and soul. C. Using the 7 liberal arts. D. Putting the emphasis on physical education. B. Well-balanced development of mind, body and soul. UNICEF and UNESCO are 2 key UN agencies which are particularly active advocates of education for peace. Which of the following is not supported by UNESCO in promoting peace in the schools? A. Develop a climate that models peaceful and respectful behavior among all members of the learning community. B. Uphold children's basic rights as outlined in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC. C. Enable the teachers to stress peacemaking in social studies classroom only when necessary. D. Demonstrate the principles of equality and non-discrimination in administrative policies. C. Enable the teachers to stress peacemaking in social studies classroom only when necessary. Scouting and Citizens Army Training, CAT, give training in character building, citizenship training, etc. Which leads to the creation of a new social order and a new society eventually. What philosophy supports this? A. Progressivism. B. Perennialism. C. Existentialism. D. Social reconstructionism. D. Social reconstructionism. Instead of assigning our students to discuss how to write a good editorial, ask them to write one for the school organ. Which principle underlies this practice? A. Promote meaningful connections between classroom subject matter and real-world contexts. B. Make assignments challenging. C. When giving assignments, take into account students' development levels. D. Use assignments for instructional and diagnostic purposes. A. Promote meaningful connections between classroom subject matter and real-world contexts. The concepts of trust versus maturity, autonomy versus self-doubt, and initiative versus guilt are most closely related with the works of A. Freud. B. Jung. C. Erikson. D. Piaget. C. Erikson. Value clarification is a strategy in values education classes is anchored on which philosophy? A. Christian philosophy. B. Existentialism. C. Hedonism. D. Idealism. D. Idealism. The educational theory, in response to progressivism, which concerns with the revival of effort in the direction of teaching the fundamental tools of learning as the most indispensable type of education. A. Behaviorism. B. Essentialism. C. Naturalism. D. Perennialism. B. Essentialism. Education and culture tend to be cyclical. Which of the following clearly explains this statement? A. Culture is learned basically from the school. B. Culture is influenced by the school and the school is shaped by the school. C. Culture is primarily transmitted by the school. D. Culture influences the school function as change agent. B. Culture is influenced by the school and the school is shaped by the school. Teacher A and Teacher B are rivals for promotion. To gain the favor of the promotional staff, Teacher B offers beach resort for free for members of the promotional staff before the ranking. As one of the contenders for promotion, is this becoming of her to do? A. Yes. The rare invitation will certainly be welcomed by an overworked promotional staff. B. No. This may exert undue influence on the members of the promotional staff and so may fail to promote someone on the basis of merit. C. Yes. This will be professional growth for the promotional staff. D. Yes. There's nothing wrong with sharing one's blessings. B. No. This may exert undue influence on the members of the promotional staff and so may fail to promote someone on the basis of merit. The rapid traversing of ideas, attitudes and values across national borders that generally leads to an interconnectedness and interaction between peoples of diverse cultures and ways of life. What is being referred to? A. Clash of civilization. B. Fundamentalism. C. Cultural globalization. D. Multiculturalism. C. Cultural globalization. Religious rituals in the classroom and in the school programs prove the deep natural religiosity of the Filipinos. Which philosophy has greatly contributed to the tradition? A. Hinduism. B. Islam. C. Confucianism. D. Buddhism. C. Confucianism. Each learner approaches the world in many ways, implies that the learner has different views of what they learn. It implies varied learning styles as well as teaching styles. As a teacher, how would you apply this statement? A. Master one strategy in teaching. B. Review the contents of the lesson. C. Provide various activities of learning. D. Make one standard lesson plan. C. Provide various activities of learning. Bernadette enjoyed the roller coaster when they went to Enchanted Kingdom. Just at the sight of a roller coaster, she gets excited. Which theory explains Bernadette's behavior? A. Pavlovian conditioning. B. Social learning theory. C. Operant conditioning. D. Attribution theory. A. Pavlovian conditioning. The main purpose of compulsory study of the Constitution is to A. Prepare students for lawmaking. B. Acquaint students with the historical development of the Philippine Constitution. C. Develop students into responsible, thinking citizens. D. Make constitutional experts of the students. C. Develop students into responsible, thinking citizens. The curriculum is a total learning experience for an individual. This point of view is considered to be of A. Materialist. B. Traditionalist. C. Cognitivist. D. Progressivist. D. Progressivist. Long before the start of every school year, Mrs. Legaspi has already started developing her own comprehensive plan based on the recommended curriculum. Which explains the best Mrs. Legaspi action in relation to the curriculum? A. Planning reduces possibilities of getting out of the planned curriculum. B. Planning screened possible differences between the curriculum plan and the implementation process. C. Planning personalizes the curriculum, making it her own. D. Planning is entirely dependent on the approved curriculum. A. Planning reduces possibilities of getting out of the planned curriculum. Because learning increases directly in proportion to the extent to which the learner is wholly bound up in his task, the teacher should give lessons that a. are easy to comprehend, b. are fictitious to appeal to their imagination, c. portray complex ideas, d. have significance and worth to the child. D. have significance and worth to the child. Which of the following illustrates the major paradigm shift in education in the 21st century? A. From contextualized themes generated from global and local realities to pre-organized subject matter. B. Shift from rigid subject matter to a more interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary pedagogical approach. C. Shift from values education and emotional learning to knowledge-dominated curriculum. D. From more flexible learning styles to a prescribed pedagogy. B. Shift from rigid subject matter to a more interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary pedagogical approach. Which reform in the Philippine educational system advocates the use of English and Filipino as media of instruction in specific learning areas? A. Alternative learning. B. K-12 program. C. Bilingual education. D. Multilingual education. C. Bilingual education. Erickson labeled children who are 2 years of age as terrible too, because A. They are sickly. B. They are playful. C. They are assertive. D. They are inquisitive. C. They are assertive. Which is a valid assessment tool if you want to find out how well your students can speak extemporaneously? A. Display of speeches delivered. B. Performance test in extemporaneous speaking. C. Written quiz on how to deliver extemporaneous speech. D. Writing speeches. B. Performance test in extemporaneous speaking. A stitch on time saves 9, so goes the adage. Applied to classroom management, this means that we A. have to resolve minor disruptions before they are out of control. B. may not occupy ourselves with disruptions which are worth ignoring because they are minor. C. may apply 9 rules out of 10 consistently. D. must be reactive in our approach to discipline. A. have to resolve minor disruptions before they are out of control. Teacher Park, unlike other teachers in his school, practices the non-traditional method of discussing the lessons using not only the book prescribed by the school as the main source of information and knowledge. Instead, he went out of his way to devise other means that will help his students to understand their lessons. To what philosophy does Teacher Park submit to? A. Constructivism. B. Behaviorism. C. Humanism. D. Progressivism. D. Progressivism. Miss Lucero is a newly appointed teacher. The principal handed a copy of the teacher's code of ethics. Which could have been the motive of the principal? A. Familiarize her with the generally accepted customs of right living in a society. B. Acquaint her with principles of moral behavior, conduct and relationship in the practice of profession. C. Provides her a set of rules and regulations to observe in school. D. Make her aware of the principles and rules prescribed under the authority of the state. B. Acquaint her with principles of moral behavior, conduct and relationship in the practice of profession. As a teacher, which of the following actions would you judge as unprofessional? A. Giving due notice in case of absence. B. Seeking position known to be vacant. C. Taking professional matters directly to the highest authority. D. Engaging in gainful employment. C. Taking professional matters directly to the highest authority. Which among the following statements about human rights education, HRE, is correct? A. Human rights standards vary from society to society, therefore HRE should also vary in terms of approaches and methods. B. HRE is more of the responsibilities of the state to implement human rights law rather than the protection of the rights holders. C. HRE needs to focus on the values, principles, and standards and human rights and how they can be translated into day-to-day actions. D. HRE should focus more on rights based on law in books, rather than law in real life. C. HRE needs to focus on the values, principles, and standards and human rights and how they can be translated into day-to-day actions. Which of the following should be done to build a sense of pride among Filipino youth? A. Re-study our history from the perspective of our colonizers. B. Replace the study of folklore and myths with technical subjects. C. Set aside the study of local history. D. Re-study our history and stress on our achievements as people. D. Re-study our history and stress on our achievements as people. You have presented a lesson on animal protective coloration. At the end, you ask if there are any questions. There are none. You can take this to mean A. Your students did not understand what you were talking about. B. You need to ask specific questions to elicit responses. C. Your students are not interested in the lesson. D. You need to determine if the students understood everything you presented. B. You need to ask specific questions to elicit responses. Keeping track of assessment results from one periodic rating to the next is useful in contributing to the development of A. Annual implementation plan. B. Regional plan. C. Division plan. D. School improvement plan. D. School improvement plan. Availment of the Philippine Education Placement Test (PEPT) for adults and out-of-school youths is in support of the government's educational program towards A. Quality. B. Equitable access. C. Relevance. D. Quality and relevance. B. Equitable access. After listening to the homily of the priest about fidelity, Catherine has a moment of reflection. Her understanding of the value of fidelity has become deeper as she related this to her past experience. This typifies what kind of philosophy? A. Humanism. B. Existentialism. C. Constructivism. D. Reconstructivism. C. Constructivism. Miss Pulido, a grade 1 teacher, has observed that her pupils respond actively to various class activities. Why are her pupils teachable? A. They are more open to experience. B. Their independence makes them more obedient. C. Their economic competence makes him receptive to education. D. Any of three is correct. A. They are more open to experience. Teacher Q does not want Teacher B to be promoted, and so writes an anonymous letter against Teacher B accusing her of fabricated lies. Teacher Q mails this anonymous letter to the school's division superintendent. What should Teacher Q do if she has to act professionally? A. Submit a signed justifiable criticism against Teacher B, if there is any. B. Go straight to the school's division superintendent and give criticism verbally. C. Hire a group to distribute poison letters against Teacher B for information dissemination. D. Instigate student activists to read poison letters over the microphone. A. Submit a signed justifiable criticism against Teacher B, if there is any. According to the Dolores report, there are a number of main tensions central to the problems of the 21st century that we need to overcome. One of them is the challenge to an individual how he or she can adapt to the changing world without forgetting or turning his/her back from the past. What kind of tension or conflict is manifested in this situation? A. Tension between tradition and modernity. B. Tension between long-term and short-term considerations. C. Tension between the global and the local. D. Tension between the universal and the individual. C. Tension between the global and the local. What philosophy of education advocates that the curriculum should only include universal and unchanging truths? A. Perennialism. B. Pragmatism. C. Idealism. D. Essentialism. A. Perennialism. A student knows that the examination week is approaching, but instead of studying, he chose to spend his time playing computer games. On the examination day itself, he opted to pray for miracles rather than studying. Which attitude towards religion is displayed? A. Religion is real. B. Religion is fake. C. Religion is magic. D. Religion is authentic. C. Religion is magic. Teacher Francine asks one student, Rachel, can you summarize what we have just read? Remember, the title of this section of the chapter. This is an example of a teacher's effort at A. Scaffolding. B. Giving feedback. C. Directing. D. Inspiring. A. Scaffolding. Which one can enhance the comparability of grades? A. Using a common conversion table for translating test scores into ratings. B. Formulating tests that vary from one teacher to another. C. Allowing individual teachers to determine factors for rating. D. Individual teachers giving weights to factors considered for rating. A. Using a common conversion table for translating test scores into ratings. A teacher puts emphasis on making her students master the rules of multiplying fractions, and not so much on the strategies and execution. This is an illustration of A. Essentialism. B. Existentialism. C. Naturalism. D. Progressivism. A. Essentialism. The establishment of special classes for the deaf-mute and the blind in various schools in the system is in consonance with education as A. Scientifically determined process. B. The study of humanities. C. Formal discipline. D. Social reconstruction. D. Social reconstruction. Teacher Zoe observed that the preschool children have generally short attention and interest span. What kind of class activities should she select for them? A. Short, varied and interesting. B. Challenging and interesting. C. Both easy and difficult. D. Long but interesting. A. Short, varied and interesting. How are human rights principles reflected in the activities of national and local governments? A. Lobbying to the UN High Commission for Human Rights to allocate a higher budget for the Philippines Commission on Human Rights. B. Legislating laws to include rights education in all levels of schooling. C. Asking the community leaders to volunteer in the construction of a barangay hall. D. Organizing local exhibits or events to highlight the children's talents and local products. B. Legislating laws to include rights education in all levels of schooling. In a study conducted, the pupils were asked which nationality they would prefer if given a choice. The majority of the pupils wanted to be Americans. In this case, in which obligation relative to the state or school seemed to be failing? A. Respect for all duly constituted authorities. B. Promote obedience to the laws of the state. C. Promote national pride. D. Instill allegiance to the constitutional authorities. C. Promote national pride. Which of these school practices helps create a positive learning climate? A. Encouraging only the high-performing teachers to apply for promotion. B. Encouraging everyone to participate in accomplishing school goals and objectives. C. Giving clear expectations to the academic community. D. Giving recognition or appreciation for teachers or staff accomplishments. B. Encouraging everyone to participate in accomplishing school goals and objectives. As provided in the Republic Act No. 4670, every teacher shall enjoy equitable safeguards at each stage of any disciplinary procedures and shall the following except: A. The right to appeal to clearly designated authorities. B. The right to full access to the evidence in the case. C. The right to be informed in writing of the charges. D. All of these. D. All of these. Which holds true to standardized tests? A. They are used for comparative purposes. B. They are administered differently. C. They are scored according to different standards. D. They are used for assigning grades. C. They are scored according to different standards. The central aim of education should develop the power of thought. This would likely be the aim of what educational practitioner? A. Perennialism. B. Reconstructivism. C. Existentialism. D. Progressivism. A. Perennialism. Mrs. Valdez provided a reading material of varying levels of difficulty to the three groups of learners. Which principle is implemented by her action? A. Help each student attain goals. B. Utilize individuals' need to achieve. C. Focus students' attention. D. Provide informative feedback. D. Provide informative feedback. Charlene, a graduating high school student, is confused about what course to take in college. She seems to be torn between teaching and accountancy. How would you help her? A. Refer her to a college guidance counselor. B. Ask her to take an aptitude test. C. Persuade her to follow your step as a teacher. D. Tell her to heed the advice of her parents. B. Ask her to take an aptitude test. When planning her lessons and units, Mrs. Jones is careful to include books and resources from a variety of cultures and ethnic groups. What kind of education is this? A. Multicultural education. B. Multilingual education. C. Gender-free education. D. Transformative education. A. Multicultural education. Which of the following is not a reason why the basic education curriculum has been restructured? A. To empower the Filipino learners for self-development throughout their life. B. To be relevant and responsive to a rapidly changing world. C. To help raise the achievement level of students. D. To become globally competitive during this industrial age. C. To help raise the achievement level of students. Research findings showed that students' motivation may vary according to socioeconomic background. Which observation can attest to this? A. More boys than girls become underachievers. B. Students from low-income families are among those likely to be at risk of failing and dropping from school. C. Females are more likely than males to earn higher grades. D. Gifted students are more highly motivated. B. Students from low-income families are among those likely to be at risk of failing and dropping from school. Direct instruction is for facts, rules, and actions, as indirect instruction is for A. Concepts, processes, and generalizations. B. Hypotheses, verified data, and conclusions. C. Guesses, data, and conclusions. D. Concepts, patterns, and abstractions. A. Concepts, processes, and generalizations. As a teacher, you are a reconstructionist. Which among these will be your guiding principle? A. I must teach the child every knowledge, skill, and value that he needs for a better future. B. I must teach the child that we can never have real knowledge of anything. C. I must teach the child so he is assured of heaven. D. I must teach the child to develop his mental powers to the fullest. A. I must teach the child every knowledge, skill, and value that he needs for a better future. Teacher Sandra views her students as unique, free-choosing and responsible individuals. All classroom activities revolve around the said premise. What theory underlies this? A. Naturalism. B. Essentialism. C. Existentialism. D. Behaviorism. C. Existentialism. Mrs. Ayala has observed that several of her pupils do not show respect for school authorities. Which of the following would best help her? A. Use more rewards initially with the pupils who have shown respect for authorities for the first time. B. Vary levels of reward for those who have shown respect for authorities. C. Hold rewards until everyone in her class manifests respect for authorities. D. Maintain the same level of rewards for all pupils who have shown respect for authorities. B. Vary levels of reward for those who have shown respect for authorities. The function of schooling is determined largely by the generally accepted social conception of education. What is the function of the curriculum in a school that regards education as cultural transmission? A. Break boundaries between social classes. B. Maintain boundaries of structure between social classes. C. Remove social status stratification. D. Unify the elements of various social classes. D. Unify the elements of various social classes. What pillar of education which emphasizes learning to be human, through acquisition of knowledge, skills and values conducive to personality development? A. Learning to do. B. Learning to know. C. Learning to be. D. Learning to live together. C. Learning to be. The greatest happiness lies in the contemplative use of mind, said Plato. Which of the following activities adheres to this? A. Role-playing. B. Cooperative learning. C. Introspection. D. Social interaction. C. Introspection. To solve moral ambiguity among us Filipinos, we must A. Be aware and responsible about the problem. B. Excuse ourselves whenever we do wrong. C. Be comfortable with the present state affairs. D. Blame our government for not doing anything about it. A. Be aware and responsible about the problem. Among the following curriculum stakeholders, who has the most responsibility in curriculum implementation? A. The learners. B. The parents. C. The teachers. D. The school heads. C. The teachers. Teacher E discussed how electricity flows through wires and what generates the electric charge. Then she gave the students wires, bulbs, switches, and dry cells and told the class to create a circuit that will increase the brightness of each bulb. Which one best describes the approach used? A. It used cooperative learning. B. It was constructivist. C. It helped students understand scientific methodology. D. It used a taxonomy of basic thinking skills. C. It helped students understand scientific methodology. Student Park, after receiving the conceptual knowledge on multiplication of trinomials from his algebra teacher, immediately answers the exercises in the book. This demonstrates what kind of philosophy? A. Progressivism. B. Existentialism. C. Constructivism. D. Idealism. A. Progressivism. Miss Del Frato has shifted from a very traditional to contemporary notion of an experiential learning in her teaching. She always finds means and ways by which students learn with and from each other by attempting to identify, and then implement solutions to their problems and opportunities. What kind of learning is emphasized by Miss Del Frato? A. Personal learning. B. Self-learning. C. Action learning. D. Group learning. D. Group learning. There are indications that Beatrice is an autistic child. What should Mrs. Aguilar, her teacher, do to help her? A. Ask Beatrice to stay and give her extra care and attention. B. Recommend a tutor for Beatrice. C. Advise her parents to take her to a specialist for diagnosis. D. Tell her parents to transfer her to another school. C. Advise her parents to take her to a specialist for diagnosis. What is the concern of multicultural education? A. Promoting care for the environment and building a global culture of ecological responsibility. B. Anticipating the future and imagining possible and probable futures. C. The exploration of concepts of cultural diversity, similarities and prejudices to promote cultural understanding. D. Gender equality and harnessing of the role of women in development. C. The exploration of concepts of cultural diversity, similarities and prejudices to promote cultural understanding. Virtue is one component in the teaching of Rizal, as a course focuses on the teaching of good and beauty consistent with the good and beauty in God. What philosophy supports this? A. Progressivism. B. Existentialism. C. Social reconstructionism. D. Idealism. D. Idealism. Which are violations of the principle of respect? 1. Teacher A tells her students that what teacher B taught is wrong. 2. To retaliate, teacher B advises students not to attend teacher A's class. 3. Teacher J secretly gives way to special favor to add 2 points to the grade of student A who is vying for honors. A 1 and 3, B 1 and 2, C 1, 2, and 3, D 2 and 3. C 1, 2, and 3. As of the Republic Act 7836, the licensure exam for teachers is with the A. Civil Service Commission. B. Department of Education. C. Professional Regulation Commission. D. Commission on Higher Education. C. Professional Regulation Commission. How would you select the most fit in government positions? Applying Confucius teachings, which would be the answer? A. By merit system and course accreditation. B. By course accreditation of an accrediting body. C. By government examinations. D. By merit system. D. By merit system. In his class, Teacher Mike always presents principles and values, so as to encourage his students to examine them and decide for themselves whether to accept it or not. What kind of philosophy does Teacher Mike practice? A. Existentialism. B. Essentialism. C. Humanism. D. Idealism. A. Existentialism. In her art class, Miss De Leon allows her students to draw and paint using varied media. She invites every student to present their finished composition and talk about them. What principle of method is illustrated by the teacher's action? A. Method provides for individual differences. B. Method provides for growth and development. C. Method stimulates thinking and reasoning. D. Method liberates the earners. C. Method stimulates thinking and reasoning. Which is not an example of research? A. A study of the effect of the level of aspiration on achievement of prospective teachers. B. A survey of the survey habits of BE Ed freshman students. C. Preparation of a project report in science. D. Development and validation of learning modules in statistics. C. Preparation of a project report in science. What is the kind of education that emphasizes human-earth relationships and fosters a vision of education for sustainable development to build a global culture of ecological responsibility? A. Development education. B. Human rights education. C. Global education. D. Environmental education. D. Environmental education. A teacher who believes in the progressivist theory of education would embrace certain reforms on methodology. Which reform would be consistent with this theory? A. Teacher dominance of class activities. B. Active participation of teachers. C. Strict external discipline. D. Formal instructional pattern. B. Active participation of teachers. There is a controversial report that in a certain country, toddlers are disciplined by being beaten, scalded with boiling water, and tied to the chairs for hours. According to the same report, the orphanages limited the number of orphans according to the budget. They did this by selecting children, especially the ugly and naughty ones, and placed them in the dying room, where they were deliberately left to starve to death. Is this morally right? A. Yes, the government cannot afford to maintain crowded orphanages. B. Yes, the children are naughty anyway and may grow to be undesirable citizens. C. No, the end does not justify the means. D. No, the children, no matter how naughty, have basic goodness. C. No, the end does not justify the means. The class was asked to share their insights about the poem. The ability to come up with an insight stems from the ability to A. Analyze the parts of a whole. B. Relate and organize things and ideas. C. Comprehend the subject that is being studied. D. Evaluate the worthiness of a thing. B. Relate and organize things and ideas. Which Filipino trait works against the shift in teacher's role from teacher as a fountain of information to teacher as facilitator? A. Pakikisama. B. Hiya. C. Authoritarianism. D. Authoritativeness. B. Hiya. Which philosophy of education has for its curriculum a body intellectual subject matter that are conceptual on subject, essential for the realization of mental and moral development? A. Idealism. B. Existentialism. C. Realism. D. Pragmatism. C. Realism. When effective planning allows for revision, Adaptation of preselected methodologies, activities, materials and evaluation instruments to meet student needs, the teacher considers. A. Motivation. B. Congruence. C. Flexibility. D. Success. C. Flexibility. In what way can teachers uphold the highest possible standards of quality education? A. By wearing expensive clothes to change people's poor perception of teachers. B. By working out undeserved promotions. C. By putting down other professions to lift the status of teaching. D. By continually improving themselves personally and professionally. D. By continually improving themselves personally and professionally. Which of the following is the first target of the Millennium Development Goals (MDGs) formulated by member states of the UN in September 2000? A. Eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. B. Reduce child mortality. C. Achieve universal access to primary education. D. Reduce death due to HIV, AIDS and malaria. A. Eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Which of the following situations manifests a balance between teachers' responsibility and accountability? A. She entertains her students with personal stories until the end of the period. B. She teaches as well as entertains the students with personal stories. C. She teaches as much as she could for the duration of the period. D. She spends most of the time on the latest gossip in showbiz. C. She teaches as much as she could for the duration of the period. At the high school level, Kohlberg's advice to teachers is for them to begin discussing with students about abstract principles such as justice and human rights. On the average, in which moral development stage are high school students supposed to be? A. Conventional stage. B. Post-conventional stage. C. In between conventional and post-conventional stage. D. This depends on the school culture. B. Post-conventional stage. Which is an underlying assumption of social cognitive theory? A. People learn by association. B. People learn by trial and error. C. People learn by observing others. D. People are social by nature. C. People learn by observing others. Who among the following puts more emphasis on core requirements, longer school day, longer academic year and more challenging textbooks? A. Perennialist. B. Existentialist. C. Progressivist. D. Essentialist. D. Essentialist. The principal shares the thought with his teachers that the subject matter should help students understand and appreciate themselves as unique individuals who accept complete responsibility of their thoughts, feelings, and actions. From which point of view is this thought based? A. Rationalism. B. Progressivism. C. Essentialism. D. Existentialism. D. Existentialism. In inquiry, the teacher asks opening questions to invite responses from children which require a great range of cognitive skills. Which opening is the most fitted for inquiry lesson? A. How many legs does a grasshopper have? B. Why do birds fly south in the winter? C. What is the name of the movable part of an airplane wing? D. Which planet is closest to the sun? B. Why do birds fly south in the winter? A child learns the world flower before he can name Sampaguita, Gumamela and Camea because of development. A. Is a continuous process. B. Proceeds from general to specific. C. Is cephalocaudal in nature. D. Follows a pattern. B. Proceeds from general to specific. In what strands of the 4 pillars of education implies a shift from skill to competence, or a mix of higher-order skills specific to each individual? A. Learning to do. B. Learning to be. C. Learning to live together. D. Learning to know. A. Learning to do. Why should a teacher take the obligation upon himself to study and understand the customs and traditions of the community where he works? A. To please the people of the community. B. To identify the weaknesses of the culture of the community. C. To have a sympathetic attitude for the people of the community. D. To change the culture of the community. C. To have a sympathetic attitude for the people of the community. A PE teacher wrote this objective in her lesson plan, to execute the 4 fundamental dance steps. When observed by the school principal, she was showing her class how to execute the basic dance steps correctly. Why did the teacher use a demonstration method to implement her objective? A. Class time is limited to ask students to execute. B. It is a chance to show the teacher's expertise. C. No student knows how to execute the steps. D. It is easier to imitate a teacher who shows the steps. D. It is easier to imitate a teacher who shows the steps. Your percentile rank in class is 60%. What does this mean? A. You scored better than 60% of the class. B. You got 40% of the test items wrongly. C. You got 60% of the test items correctly. D. You scored less than 60% of the class. A. You scored better than 60% of the class. In a criterion referenced testing, what must you do to ensure that your test is fair? A. Ask each student to contribute 1 question. B. Make 20 questions but ask the students to answer only 10 of their choice. C. Make all of the questions true or false. D. Use the objectives for the units as guide in your test construction. D. Use the objectives for the units as guide in your test construction. The philosophy proclaims the spiritual nature and the universe. It holds that the good, the true and the beautiful are permanently part of the structure of an unchanging universe. A. Existentialism. B. Realism. C. Idealism. D. Naturalism. C. Idealism. In Mrs. Bracken's lesson plan, one of the objectives is, describe the water cycle, form a given diagram. This objective A. States the condition for the performance behavior. B. Describes learner performance. C. Describes observable performance behavior. D. Follows all the criteria of a useful objective. A. States the condition for the performance behavior. The following characteristics does not describe contextualized learning as a major paradigm shift in education. A. From traditional pedagogies to more modern strategies of teaching and learning. B. From limited access to time-bound and space-limited education, to borderless education, lifelong learning for all in a learning society. C. Pre-organized subject matter to localized themes generated from the global realities and the cultural relevant, meaningful and useful to learners. D. From knowledge limited to the local scene to the globalized knowledge, values, attitudes, and skills interfaced with local wisdom. B. From limited access to time-bound and space-limited education, to borderless education, lifelong learning for all in a learning society. Which curricular moves serve to strengthen spiritual and ethical values? A. Integration of creative thinking in all subject. B. Introduction of values education as a separate subject area. C. Reducing the number of subject areas into skill subject. D. Reintroducing science as a subject in grade 1. B. Introduction of values education as a separate subject area. Which technique in cooperative learning is used when new information is divided equally among all group members and each student teaches his or her portion to the other group members? A. Round robin. B. Think, pair, share. C. Jigsaw. D. Round table. C. Jigsaw. In a grade distribution, what does the normal curve mean? A. A large number of students with high grades and very few with low grades. B. All of the students have average grades. C. A large number of students received low grades and very few students with high marks. D. A large number of more or less average students and very few students receiving low and high grades. D. A large number of more or less average students and very few students receiving low and high grades. Theft of school equipment like TV, computer, etc. by teenagers in the community itself is becoming a common phenomenon. What does this incident signify? A. Deprivation of Filipino schools. B. Inability of school to hire security guards. C. Prevalence of poverty in the community. D. Community's lack of sense of co-ownership. D. Community's lack of sense of co-ownership. Teacher Kim is an inspiration to almost all of his students. His efficiency and effectiveness in the profession is truly outstanding. Which of the following describes this attitude of the students toward him? A. Idealism. B. Progressivism. C. Existentialism. D. Naturalism. A. Idealism. Zulieta upholds that the needs and interest of the learner should be the basis of his educational program. Which is more likely to be strongly reflected in Miss Zulieta's plan? A. Objectives that are activity-centered. B. Objectives that are focused on social judgment. C. Objectives that are child-centered. D. Objectives that are social nutrition. C. Objectives that are child-centered. If you agree with Rizal on how you can contribute to our nation's redemption, which should you work for? A. Gaining economic recovery. B. Upgrading the quality of the Filipino through education. C. Stabilizing the political situation. D. Opening our doors to foreign influence. B. Upgrading the quality of the Filipino through education. Which of the following is not a benefit of multicultural education? A. Multicultural education decreases stereotyping and prejudice through direct contact and interaction among diverse individuals. B. Multicultural education increases positive relationships through achievement of common goals, respect, appreciation and commitment to equality among the teachers and students. C. Multicultural education renews vitality of society through the richness of the different cultures of its members and fosters development. D. Multicultural education promotes independence of various ethnic groups in development and supports fragmented views of the world. D. Multicultural education promotes independence of various ethnic groups in development and supports fragmented views of the world. Activities planned by school clubs organizations show school community connection geared towards society's needs. What philosophy is related to this? A. Realism. B. Existentialism. C. Social reconstructionism. D. Progressivism. C. Social reconstructionism. Rodel is very aloof and cold in his relationships with his classmates. Which basic goal must have not been attained by Rodel during his developmental years, according to Erikson's theory on psychological development? A. Generativity. B. Autonomy. C. Trust. D. Initiative. C. Trust. Asked to do a learning task, Joe hesitates and says, "It's difficult. I don't like it. I can't do it." Is it possible to motivate this type of student? A. No, it is impossible to motivate a student who himself is not motivated. B. No, motivation is totally dependent on the student. No person outside him can influence him. C. Yes, he can do something with his ability. D. Yes, he can change the nature of the job. C. Yes, he can do something with his ability. Which is the first step in planning an achievement test? A. Select the type of test items to use. B. Define the instructional objective. C. Decide on the length of the test. D. Build a table of specification. B. Define the instructional objective. This philosophy contends that the intellectual faculty of man is higher than the physical faculties. A. Idealism. B. Existentialism. C. Perennialism. D. Realism. A. Idealism. Mrs. Armanda, a teacher in values education, focuses her activities on effective learning. She employs experiential methods, centered around group discussion, or peer work, co-counseling, guiding imaging, narrative exercises, diaries and autobiographies. What type of experience is prioritized by these experiential strategies? A. Problem-based learning. B. Personal development. C. Social change. D. Non-traditional learning. B. Personal development. What is the implication in globalization to the practice and experience of education? A. Increase of state and government support and subsidy for education. B. Commodification and the corporate takeover of education. C. Delocalization of technologies and orientations in education. D. Greater autonomy of national educational systems. B. Commodification and the corporate takeover of education. Which philosophy influenced the cultivation of reflective and meditative skills in teaching? A. Confucianism. B. Taoism. C. Zen Buddhism. D. Existentialism. C. Zen Buddhism. Each teacher is said to be a trustee of the cultural and educational heritage of the nation and is obliged to transmit to learners such heritage. Which practice helps them fulfill such an obligation? A. Supplant indigenous culture with foreign culture. B. Observe continuing professional education and be the best teacher. C. Teach community life and culture worth emulating. D. Teach the latest instructional technology to children. C. Teach community life and culture worth emulating. Which psychological theory states that the mind insists on finding patterns in things that contribute to the development of insight? A. Gestalt psychology. B. Brunner's psychology. C. Piaget's psychology. D. Kohlberg's psychology. A. Gestalt psychology. History books used in schools are replete with events portraying defeats and weaknesses of the Filipino as a people. How should you tackle them in the classroom? A. Present them and blame those people responsible or those who have contributed. B. Present facts and use them as means in inspiring your class to learn from them. C. Present them as they are presented, and tell the class to accept reality. D. Present them and express your feelings of shame. B. Present facts and use them as means in inspiring your class to learn from them. After finishing the degree in education, teacher Mary realizes that learning never stops. In fact, she accumulates more knowledge after leaving the portal of her alma mater. This typifies what kind of philosophy? A. Humanism. B. Perennialism. C. Constructivism. D. Progressivism. D. Progressivism. Miss Diana taped one of the Sesame Street series and showed this to class. Which of the following generalization under which the utilization of Sesame Street as an instructional materials was developed? A. Children learn by observing and imitating. B. The TV teacher is accepted by younger children. C. Indirect methods should be used to teach cognitive skills. D. Instruction should be reduced to entertainment. A. Children learn by observing and imitating. Teachers should bear in mind that the period of greatest mental development is from A. 3 to 6 years, B. 6 to 9 years, C. 9 to 12 years, D. 12 to 15 years. C. 9 to 12 years. Why are educational environments very crucial to peace education? A. Many teachers infuse peace education into traditional academic subjects such as literature, math, science, history, language, civics and the arts. B. The social, cultural, economic and political contexts in which educators work shape the specific content and methods they choose for peace education. C. The variety of different educational settings from rural to urban, school-based to community and within the formal curricula or non-formal popular education projects are relevant to peace education. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Which of the following is the focus of the Japanese education in the Philippines? A. Vocational and health education. B. Democratic ideals and nationalism. C. Religion and love for Asian brothers. D. Love and service to one's country. A. Vocational and health education. Professionalization of teachers and teaching is promulgated in Presidential Decree 1006, defines teaching as a profession concerned with classroom institutions. A. By teachers of permanent status. B. At the elementary and secondary levels in both public and private schools. C. At the tertiary level in both public and private institutions. D. By teachers on a full-time basis. B. At the elementary and secondary levels in both public and private schools. Who is the forerunner of the presence of the language acquisition device? A. Gardner. B. Watson. C. Chomsky. D. Piaget. C. Chomsky. I combined several subject areas in order to focus on a single concept for interdisciplinary teaching. Which strategy or method did I use? A. Unit method. B. Reading-writing activity. C. Problem-centered learning. D. Thematic instruction. D. Thematic instruction. The most influential movement in the 18th century. Acts according by the nature. A. Naturalism. B. Realism. C. Existentialism. D. Idealism. A. Naturalism. Miss Cutie is using cooperative learning approaches in her social science lessons. She is quite successful in establishing cooperative ethics characterized by a safe, caring community learners. What will be her initial step in order to successfully implement cooperative learning approaches? A. Establish positive interdependence. B. Identify academic and social objectives. C. Arrange the learning environment. D. Determine group size and membership. B. Identify academic and social objectives. Which of the following corresponds to Kohlberg's post-conventional or principal level of moral development? A. Right action is defined by the decision of conscience in accordance with self-chosen. B. Right action consists of what instrumental satisfies one's own needs. C. Good behavior is that which pleases or helps others or is approved by them. D. Good behavior is based on the physical consequences of action. C. Good behavior is that which pleases or helps others or is approved by them. What pillar of education of J. Delors, UNESCO, focuses on VOC-Tech relevant to people-centered human development? A. Learning to do. B. Learning to know. C. Learning to be. D. Learning to live together. A. Learning to do. How many correct answers did you get from this drill? Comment it down below. I hope you got a passing score of 113 and above. If not, don't give up, you're almost there. You did your part. Try it again. If you try more, you will master it. Good luck, LPT cutie. Claim it. Thank you for your willingness and participation. See you in the next drills. The next video will appear on screen and click it to watch.